Yes, folks, welcome back to the channel. Long time no see, a long time with no content, 6 weeks since the last video after that glorious Scottish Cup victory over Rangers at Hampden on the 25th of May. I've been taking a nice summer break, trying to recharge the batteries after another long season. But it's finally time to get started again, and pre-season is here, it's upon us. Lots to talk about, lots to get through and lots to catch up on. First of all, today we're going to do a Celtic squad tier video. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept. You'll have seen them on lots of other channels. We've done them in the past as well. I think that's a nice starting point, given that there's going to be so much transfer talk and so much transfer content to get through over the next couple of months to look at where the squad is at and give you my opinion on how I rank the current squad. There is only going to be 3 categories. I want to keep this as simple as possible. We're going to have keep, bin and need more. Those are pretty self-explanatory, and just before we get started, we need to run through the players who were part of the Celtic squad last season who are now excluded for this list. Of course, Joe Hart, who's retired, Paulo Bernardo, Adam Ida, who have gone back to their parent clubs. There'll be plenty of talk about them and the transfer content coming up over the next month or so. I can guarantee you that. Sead Haksabanovic has left the club. He's gone to Malmo. Marco Tilio has extended his loan period with Melbourne City, as was confirmed this morning. And Vokovata looks like he's about to sign for Watford after his Celtic contract expired. So none of those 6 players are going to appear anywhere in these categories, just so you know where we stand and you know the list of players we're working off. If I forget anybody else, I'm sure there might be 1 or 2, some of the younger players there that I haven't categorised, but you can let me know in the comments, as always, if there's anyone that I have missed. This season we're bringing you more content than we have ever brought you before. As we move through pre-season, there'll be more information on exactly what that will look like, but really buzzing to get started, buzzing to get back to some proper football after the Euros. I mean, it's been alright, the Euros. Nice to get so many games on the telly all the time, but I think it's been disappointing at times, and the less said about Scotland's group stage the better. I just can't wait to get back to the real football, back to talking about Celtic, back to watching Celtic. We're going to have lots of content coming up even over the course of the next few days. I'm going to be at Ayr tomorrow for the first pre-season friendly. We probably won't make the content as usual there, but follow us across all the social channels. We're going to be a lot more active as well this season on the likes of Twitter, the likes of Instagram. So make sure you're following us over there for all the content through pre-season and as we start the campaign as well. So let's get started with the first category then. And as I say, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. We've only got 3 categories. The first one is keep, starting with 4 or 5 players who I believe are the most important in the team, the spine of the team, the players that we can't really afford to lose, and we really struggle to replace if they're ever missing through injury or suspension. That's Cameron Carter-Vickers, Callum McGregor, Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly. Those are the 4 players who I consider the absolute irreplaceable players in this squad. Carter-Vickers, a couple of wee links with teams looking at him early in the summer. I know he's been away with the USA. Hopefully nothing comes of that. He's so important for us. Not long signed a new contract. Brings such stability to the team. A massive player. Callum McGregor, the captain. What an influence he has on this Celtic team. And I think the only question mark I would say with Callum McGregor is obviously his fitness, because he had that Achilles problem around March, April time, and he said during the summer that the first scan suggested that the season was going to be over, but he found a way to recover, he found a way to push through the pain, and he finished the season strongly, and we lifted that League and Cup double. So that just goes to show you the dedication and the professionalism of Callum McGregor. But I think for the club, they've got to be thinking about over the next 1 or 2 years how we replace Callum McGregor's minutes, how we replace his influence in the team and his leadership, because I think if you jump forward 2 seasons, we are going to be in that position where we really need to think about replacing Callum McGregor. Who knows what the rest of his career will look like. But he's played so many minutes. He plays 60 games a season for the best part of 10 years now, and I think you can tell with that type of injury it's starting to wear a wee bit on his body. We've just got to be mindful of that, and we've got to find a way to rest him more often when we can, and then think about who replaces him and what that player looks like in seasons going forward. Kyogo and O'Reilly, massive. O'Reilly is a category all of his own, I suppose, because there's so much interest in him. Southampton this week, Atletico Madrid in the past, Inter Milan as well. He is the most in-demand Celtic player. I think it's going to be nothing short of a miracle if we manage to hold on to him through this summer. But I've still got him in the keep category because, of course, if it was up to me, I would, of course, like to keep him. Next up, I'm going Hatate, Maeda, Alistair Johnston and Greg Taylor. Hatate is on the cusp of that spine of players who you think we almost can't replace. He missed so much of last season through injury. Rio Hatate, he's got to sort that out this season. I think towards the end of the campaign, those final two derbies really stand out as poor performances from him. I think he obviously struggled to get to his fitness level, struggling to get to match sharpness, having missed so much. Hopefully he can get an uninterrupted pre-season and be ready to really hit the ground running when the competitive games start, because his season was so disrupted by injury last time out, and getting a full pre-season and staying clear injury is going to help him, and hopefully we can get back to seeing his true level over a longer period of time. Maeda is huge. We know that we can have a better player technically in terms of his creative output with goals and assists, but he brings so much to the Celtic team. I've never seen a player work that hard in my life, and I think that level of effort that he gives every week gets more out of his teammates as well, because you can't look at a player like that when you're in the same team as him and think that you can half-arse it. He is really important for us. And in the fullbacks, Johnston, again, needs an interrupted pre-season, but a big player for us. Really like the intensity he plays with, but I think that ankle injury towards the end of the season before last, and then the work he had done on it last pre-season, did maybe inhibit him a wee bit at the start of that last campaign. But again, hopefully he can stay injury clear. He's also away with Canada just now, so he will have played some football through the summer as well. As long as he can stay fit and sharp, we should actually see a better level out of him this season than we did last. I've put Greg Taylor in keep, of course. I know his contract's running down. I think he's really important for us, Greg Taylor. I understand that left back is a position that we all want the club to improve on. We'll come to Bernabeu in a minute. We definitely need numbers there, but we also need quality. Someone that we can improve on Greg Taylor, someone that can push him. But Greg Taylor, outside of the likes of McGregor, Forrest, Ralston, Welsh, is the longest serving player at the club now. Been here for 5 years, won multiple league titles. I don't think we can afford to lose him, because we would go to having basically zero left backs. So Greg Taylor's definitely in keep. I think his teammates really appreciate him. I think he's well liked in the dressing room, and I think as the longest serving non-youth academy player, we've got to keep him around. Completing the keep category, I've got Scales, Ralston, Iwata, Bain, Welsh and James Forrest. You all know where I stand on Liam Scales. I would like to see us improve in that position this summer. There'll be lots of transfer content coming up where we'll talk about each area of the team where we need to improve, the type of profile of player we need in that position for us to get better and get to the level that we want to get to. I just think on the ball, Liam Scales in this Celtic team, where there's so much onus in the centre halves to build the play and be brave and move the ball quickly and make decisive movements and decisive passes to try and break lines and build attacks. I just think he lingers too long on the ball, but he's just signed a new contract. There's no doubt he's going to be here. There's no doubt we're going to keep him. There's no doubt that he can be a really good squad player for us, and he can play 15 to 20 games a season whenever we need him. I just wouldn't like to go through another season where Liam Scales has played basically every single minute in every single competition, because I think we could have a better player in that position. The likes of Ralston, Iwata, Welsh and Bain, I expect them all to be squad players. We might even see some more of the likes of Ralston and Iwata at different times. I know Brendan Rodgers alluded to that towards the end of last season, that we might see a bit more for Anthony Ralston than we did last season. He got a lot of time for Scotland at the Euros, and I think that's obviously a really difficult level for him to make the step up to, having barely played at all for Celtic in the back half of the campaign. But I think those are important squad players. I don't really think they're going anywhere. There was interest in Stephen Welsh in seasons gone by. I don't know where that's at now. He hasn't played a lot. He hasn't played well when he's come into the team last season really either. So I think he'll be there. I think he'll be a squad player. He'll be a backup, and we know where Scott Bain lies as well. So Let's go to the need more category before we come to bin. And I've only got 4 players in here. That's Kuhn, Palma, Nawrocki and Holm. First up, Nicholas Kuhn, the big January signing, £3.5 million for Rapid Vienna. I think we expected a lot from him. And I know that we've replaced the recruitment team since then, and both the summer transfer window and winter transfer window last season were absolutely unacceptable, and they led to people losing their jobs. I think Nicholas Kuhn has really, really underwhelmed. I think he's got to do better this season. I think the output for wide areas throughout the course of last campaign was dreadful. We needed James Forrest late in the campaign to rescue us, basically, to get us back in the straight and narrow and get us over the line for a League and Cup double. I want to see more out of Kuhn. I want to see him do a lot more before we can say, do you know what, he's a Celtic player, he's someone that can contribute to this team long term. Lewis Palma is where it started actually pretty well. I think one of those 9 signings that we thought in the first half of the season, he's probably the only one that gets anywhere near pass marks. And I know his numbers are good, I know his goals are good, he can strike the ball well, he gets assists as well, but I think again, he's got to do a lot more. He's one of these players where if you watch his highlight reel, you'll think what a player he is, what a brilliant goal scorer. Great crossing ability at times, but when you watch him for 90 minutes, he's really, really frustrating. Lewis Palma, he's got to do more. I think his work off the ball could be much better as well. And again, you go over the course of last season, he played a lot of games, maybe not towards the end of the campaign, but in that first half of the season, he played a lot of games, and like I say, there was a lot of times where you were left wanting more from him. He may well have that in his locker, but he's a player I need more from. You can let me know if you agree in the comments below. Nawrocki as well. I would like to see him play a bit more often. I think you can see his raw attributes. You can see that he's good on the ball, confident in his passing as well, but he's got a lot of learning to do, particularly defensively. We spent a lot of money on him last summer though. Again, one of those 9 signings who just wasn't ready to contribute to the first team in any way. He picked up that injury early on, and then he really struggled to get back in Brendan Rodgers' thoughts at different times throughout the season, because Liam Scales was the first choice for Brendan Rodgers, and so I want to see more minutes for Nawrocki, but I would like to see him do more as well. First of all, just to convince the manager that he deserves a place in the team, but then see that development from, because I do think there's a player in there. And last in this category for need more is Odin Thiago Holm. He's probably the only one here that I would send out on loan. I think he needs to go through a bit of a physical transformation. You can see his technical ability. You can see that he's got a brilliant ability to drift by players. He's a good passer of the ball. Technically, you can see that he's sound, but I think he needs to develop physically and even mentally to be able to cope with playing for a team like Celtic. And as I say, the judgment on all of these signings that you bring in on 4 or 5 year deals is, can they become long-term Celtic players? Can they make big contributions? And I don't think Holmes in a position to do that. I think if he goes on loan, gets a lot of game time, we can maybe reassess it. But again, I think that's still a failing on last year's recruitment, which we've talked to death about. But I think a loan deal for Holm, we might still have a player in there. Right, last up is the bin category. These are the players who I think their time is coming to an end. I don't think it's worked out for them at Celtic, and I think that the club has to think about moving them on and then replacing them with better quality, and getting Brendan Rodgers not just the volume of players, but the level of players that he needs to try and take this team to the next level. First up's Bernabei. Don't think there's any surprises there. It was almost out of nowhere that he went on loan about February, March time last season. I think his input when he came off the bench at times was appalling. He's too erratic. I don't think he's got the necessary qualities to be a success at Celtic. It's time for him to move on. Next up, Siegrist. Again, barely played any competitive minutes for Celtic. Nearly went to Sturm Graz in the winter transfer window. I think he's going to move on obviously as well. Kobayashi, not had a look in under Brendan Rodgers, hasn't made the grade at all. He's another one I would expect to move on. And then the forgotten man, James McCarthy, who knows where he is? Who knows if he even turns up to training anymore? Who knows if I don't know where he is. Nobody's seen him. I've never seen him a training picture for months and months. I don't know what the score is with him. It's one of the worst Celtic signings of all time. I think he's maybe still got a year to run in his contract. He's going to play no part at all for this Celtic team. I don't think I'm saying bin as if we're going to get rid of him, as if somebody's going to try and come and buy him or take him off our hands. I don't see that at all. But he's certainly not going to contribute in any way, shape or form, as he hasn't done since he arrived at the club. As I say, that's one of the most baffling Celtic signings of all time. Next up, who nearly signed for Genk a couple of weeks back. I don't know where that deal's at now. It's all gone a bit quiet. A move to Belgium looked like it was more than on the cards. A deal worth around €4 million, which I think would be decent enough for us. I don't think it's worked for O, and I'm also not. I don't think we should be patient and wait for it to happen. I think that he's not quite at the level you would require to be a Celtic striker. He's got qualities, don't get me wrong. He can go and have a good career at other clubs, and maybe at another level where the demands aren't quite as high as they are at Celtic. I just don't think he's cut out to lead the line and contribute and be a long-term success at Celtic. I would expect him to move on, and I think whether it be to Genk or another club, there will be a deal for him going out in the near future. Gustav Lagerbielke is next up. Again, almost left in January to Lecce, I believe, or it was rumoured at the time, and then it fell through because of our injuries at the time. Again, another appalling piece of recruitment where we lost Karel Starfelt last summer, and Lagerbielke was almost right in the door behind him. And at the time, you thought that's really good planning. That's the sort of quick replacement of players you want to see. When you lose a player, you've got someone earmarked to come right in and replace them. But it now looks like a rushed bit of business that hasn't worked out at all. He came from Elfsborg, struggled at the start. I know that he had that stat where we'd kept a clean sheet in every league game he'd played, but Brendan Rodgers clearly doesn't fancy him. He was one, unlike Nawrocki, who didn't get injured last season, generally speaking, but he still could not. There was months where he couldn't get near a match day squad. I expect him to move on as well. And again, talking about a £3.5 million signing, who you are trying to ship out the club 6 months after he arrives, and then 12 months after he arrives, tells you all you need to know about how poor the recruitment was last summer. And next up on that account is Yang. Again, this is one I don't expect Yang to move on this summer. I just don't see it from him. I don't see that he's ever going to be a successful Celtic player. And I hate to say that, but I just think that's the truth. I don't think he's got the level required. He did play a lot of games last season. I think his output in terms of assists and goals for a wide player at Celtic was miles off it. And again, I think it's a damning indictment on all of the wingers that we needed James Forrest to dig us out a hole last season, because James Forrest went through spells both under Postecoglou and under Brendan Rodgers last season where he was barely getting a look in. He was playing no minutes at all, but still he was there. He was so professional. He was always ready to contribute, and he came in and showed his quality and just immediately delivered. I don't think we can afford to give these players 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years before we say, do you know what, it's just not going to work. You're just not at the level to be a Celtic player. I think that's the case for Yang. So I've got him in this category. Whether that means we'll try and get a loan deal for him or he might move on permanently, I don't know. He might just play out the whole season on the bench and trying to make match day squads. But one thing is for sure, we cannot go through another season where Yang has to play so many games like he did last campaign and ultimately deliver such poor output. That can't be allowed to happen. Finally in this category is Mikey Johnston. I think Mikey's time, I think that's a good natural time for Mikey to part ways with the club. I think he did really well at West Brom on loan. And I think for his career now, he needs to move on from Celtic. It's difficult coming through as a youth player. He's had a lot of chances under different managers, and I think you could see the weight lifted off his shoulders when he moved to West Brom and got that loan move and performed like that. So I think there should be interest in him off the back of that. But I think this is a good time for Mikey to part ways with Celtic and go on and listen. He'll have a good career elsewhere. But I just think it hasn't worked at Celtic, and as I say, it's probably best for his career if he moves on now. So there you go. If I've missed anybody, you can let me know in the comments. If you disagree with anybody I've included in any of these categories, you can also let me know below. That's what it's all about. These videos are good starting points to get a bit of discussion going, and as I say, you can let me know your own opinion for each of these categories in the comments section. We'll be back very soon with more transfer content. We're going to be talking a lot about Adam Ida and Celtic's pursuit of him after that bid was placed with Norwich yesterday. We'll talk about the Paulo Bernardo saga and where that sat, and of course we're after a new number one. Celtic need a new goalkeeper, and I think we're all getting a bit panicked that the club go to the USA on pre-season very, very soon and we don't have a new goalkeeper. So there's lots to talk about, lots to go over in terms of the transfer business. We'll be back with you very soon with another video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you then. Cheers.